The spirit rapped out consistent answers to the questions put to him, and correctly tapped the age of a neighbor, Mrs. Redfield. By means of additional questions, the Foxes and their neighbors determined that the murder victim had his throat slit with a butcher knife in what was now John and Margaret's bedroom, before being buried under the house in a 10-foot grave. The next day, the house overflowed with more than 300 people, forcing the questioners to proceed by committee. Other spirits joined the dead peddler. Witnesses swore that the spirits replied to questions in the Fox family's presence, as well as when they were sent out, but that after the confusion and excitement had subsided, the spirits seemed to select the two youngest girls as their preferred mediums. Efforts to dig up the dead man's grave on Saturday night were abandoned when the party struck water in the cellar. If the Fox family was inconvenienced by these proceedings, they were also entertained. They asked the peddler's spirit to imitate sounds related to the murder, including the gurgling of his slit throat, the scraping of a body being dragged across the floor, and a noise like that of pouring a quantity of clotted blood from a pail onto the floor. As the spirits became familiar with the family, more of them began to appear. Some employed dramatic means of communication, including writing on the floors of empty rooms and hurling wood blocks engraved with important messages through the windows of the Fox house. The girls were eventually sent away from the excitement. Margaretta went to live with her brother David, and Kate was sent to Rochester to live with her sister, Leah Fish, a widow who taught music and took in lodgers. Even before Kate and Leah had gotten settled in a new home, they began to hear the spirit raps, along with the sound of more coagulated blood being poured on the floor. Kate and her niece Elizabeth, also 12, felt cold hands upon them in bed. Soon after, Elizabeth found herself cured of a spinal problem, which the family credited to therapeutic calisthenics compelled by the spirit's ghostly touch. In subsequent disturbances, which Leah invited her Methodist neighbors to witness, books flew from shelves in the dark. Hoping to be rid of the problem, the Foxes consented to an exorcism, but it proved a failure. Constantly harassed by spirit visitors, Leah summoned Isaac Post, a friend to the Fox family, to see if he might be able to help her calm the visiting souls. After she mentioned that back in Hydesville, David Fox had recited the alphabet so that the spirit could spell its name by rapping to indicate a desired letter, Post suggested that the girls do the same with their invisible visitors in Rochester. Their method of communicating with the spirits became widely known as the spiritual telegraph. By autumn, additional mediums across the region had discovered their abilities to communicate with the dead. They inspired such a degree of public fascination, and in many cases belief and trust, that spirit mediums were consulted for assistance with unsolved crimes. As was wont to occur, souls departed from the earth erred as often as their terrestrial counterparts, and repeatedly changed their minds. To turn back a rising tide of public doubt, the spirits sent a message through another young New York medium, Elizabeth Granger, indicating a date by which they desired to perform public demonstrations in Rochester. The Foxes received a similar message instructing them, "You have a duty to perform. We want you to make this matter more public." The result of this command was a November 1849 demonstration of spirit communication held in Rochester's largest public venue, Corinthian Hall. Following an introductory lecture on November 14th, committees of investigators subjected the Fox sisters to a battery of tests. They stood on glass and pillows, they had their dresses cinched to their ankles, and disrobed for inspection by a committee of ladies, who searched for foreign instruments on their bodies. Members of the committee testified they could not determine any mechanism by which the Foxes might produce the raps themselves. The outcome of the Rochester demonstrations was a loquacious explosion of spirit communications and manifestations throughout New York State. The excitement soon spread across the entire country. Skeptics and enthusiasts came together to investigate spiritualist phenomena, whose veracity was determined by putatively scientific tests. Spirit circles fanned out across the class and education spectrum. Even Frederick Douglass, one of Rochester's leading intellectuals, was reported to have engaged in spirit investigation. The Fox